Let me start off by giving an update report on the coronavirus because let me just say that it is still present. So I want to address that and remind people that we are still dealing with COVID-19 pandemic. It has not gone away. With so much happening, let me remind everyone that the coronavirus is still present. The virus has not disappeared simply because we are focused on what happened in Minneapolis or other things that may be occurring right now or what's taking place in the city of Houston or in the parts of the country. And as a reminder, today the city of Houston's health department is reporting 337 new cases of COVID-19, bringing the Houston's total to 7,743. So that's 337. The new numbers reflect 2 days of reporting due to the Houston Health Department having Sunday off. So these are 2-day reports being given in one set of numbers. The total number of deaths increased by 2, and so now that number is 131. Of these 131 deaths, 30 are associated with nursing homes and 3 with the Harris County Jail. So 30 with nursing homes, 3 with the jails, a total number of 131. The 2 new deaths that we are reporting are a white female in her 80s with underlying health conditions and a black female in her 70s with underlying health conditions, and both passed away in early May. As a reminder, the Houston Health Department and agency partners are providing free COVID-19 test sites this week. Houstonians can visit houstonemergency.org to find current Houston test sites and information about stopping the spread of the virus. And please be reminded there are about 27 sites throughout the city of Houston. They are free, they're open to the public, and they are available to you whether you have symptoms or you have no symptoms at all. And with all of the enhanced activity that is taking place right here in the city of Houston, let me encourage you, if you've been around crowds, mass gatherings, especially mass gatherings where people may not have had on a mask, or you did not engage in social distancing, let me encourage you to take full advantage of one of those 27 free testing sites that are located throughout the city of Houston. As people return to work this week and participate in demonstrations in memory of George Floyd, it is more important than ever to wear your face coverings, maintain social distancing, and practice good hygiene. We do not want a surge of COVID-19 in our community because we dropped our guard and just failed to adhere to the health warnings. I'm a member of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, in fact, a trustee with the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and today I join with other mayors across the nation in declaring this a national day of mourning for those who have lost their lives to COVID-19. We encourage faith and community leaders and all Houstonians to pause, reflect, pray, mourn, and honor all those who have died and to comfort those family members who have been left behind. I will be on a conference call later this week with faith-based leaders to discuss ongoing efforts to keep our respective communities safe. At this point in time, let me yield to Dr. Peirce.
Thank you, Mayor. Today I want to discuss something which we actually touched on earlier, but there's a trend that we've noticed across, we first started noticing it in Europe, but we now have some data from the United States, and that is of people who appear to be missing a little bit of the message when it comes to staying at home and being afraid of contracting the virus. And that is that some people appear to be afraid to go to the hospital. The slide which in the screen is a graph from an article that was recently published in the New England Journal of Medicine, and this comes from the Kaiser Permanente healthcare system of Northern California. And so there are many, many hospitals that contribute to this data. And what you see on that, the yellow line is the number of patients who are admitted to those hospitals who are having a heart attack from January through the mid-April for last year. The red line is the same diagnosis of people being admitted for heart attacks to the same hospitals for this year. And what you, in the blue line, is the number of cases that have COVID-19 in those communities. And what you can see is that from when the curve first started going up and they had their first death from COVID disease in Northern California is right about exactly when the number of people going to hospitals with their heart attacks dropped off. And what that graph, it's kind of hard to see with your eye, but that is a 48% decrease in the number of patients going to hospitals who are having heart attacks. Now, that doesn't mean that heart attacks stopped happening. Heart attacks continue to happen. And I think that sometimes movies and TV drama mislead the public. And so people can have heart attacks and survive them. They just wind up with heart damage, which causes them then to have congestive heart failure and other problems. Completely avoidable if you call early and get treated early. Yes, some people will die from a heart attack. Some people die from their first heart attack. But again, if you call and get treated, heart attacks can be minimized, they can be reversed, they can be treated. But if you stay at home, you're going to suffer the heart damage from the heart attack. This slide is a look at what we found within the Houston Fire Department. And in this slide is the blue line is the number of folks that were heart attack patients that the Houston Fire Department transported last year. The gray line is, again, this is January through April for this year. And again, you can see it goes from a peak in February of 39. And remember, February is a short month. So in the month of February, we had 37 heart attacks that we transported, and in April, it dropped to 20. Again, nearly a 50% decrease. So the message that I want to get across to folks today is that hospitals are safe places. You're not going to contract the virus if you go to the hospitals, with a critical illness. The hospitals have ramped up everything. They're doing a great job of protecting their employees. They're doing a great job of protecting the patients in the hospital. Also, the emergency department volumes are way down, so there are not a lot of people in the waiting room with the emergency department. Our Houston Fire Department, our total EMS call volume is down quite a bit. I think Chief Penny is going to talk about that in a moment. And most of that, a lot of that is people who are going to emergency departments who didn't need to go to emergency departments in the first place, so like medication refills and so on and so forth. So the emergency departments are not crowded. The waiting rooms are not crowded. So if you think you're having a heart attack, and if you want, you can go to the American Heart Association's webpage for the signs and symptoms. But it's what we've been talking. I think most Americans should know the signs and symptoms of a heart attack by now. A pressure-like sensation in your chest, particularly if it occurs after a little bit of exertion. Sudden shortness of breath, sweating for no reason, being nauseated for no reason. These are all signs of a potential heart attack. If you are having those, especially if you have a history of high blood pressure or diabetes or any of the chronic illnesses that we've been talking about, then these are all risk factors that would contribute to it. Stroke, we have the acronym FAST. You said you have some paralysis on one side of your face. You have arm weakness, some aberration in your speech. You're not speaking correctly. That's the FAS of FAST. And T is time to call 911. So F for a facial weakness, A for arm weakness, S for a speech problem suddenly, and T, it's time to call 911. So if you think you're having a heart attack or you think you're having a stroke and you're afraid of the virus and catching the virus at the hospital, you do not need to be afraid of that. Call 911. The whole system is set up to help you to reverse your heart attack and potentially reverse your stroke as well. Hospitals are safe to go to. Thank you, Mayor.
Chief Payne, you want to amplify that message as well?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. It's certainly been a busy year, to say the least, for public safety. As Dr. Peirce has mentioned, the fire department's transports have been down in these last 2 months. We remain fully operational. We're staffing every apparatus, every vehicle that we have in place. And if you need 911, we encourage you to call 911. We're going to take every precaution that we have available to us to ensure your safety, the safety of our firefighters. But your safety and your public health is critically important. Don't hesitate to call 911 if it's a true emergency, and you will get the response that you expect from the Houston Fire Department. We, in partnership with the Health Department, we're taking every precaution that we can, and we're following CDC's guidelines. And through the mayor's support and leadership, we're ensuring that the personal protective equipment is available for our firefighters as well as for our patients. So again, 911 is there for you to use in true emergencies. If you feel that you need to call 911 for a medical emergency, do not hesitate. Do not fear that you're going to contract something by calling 911 and being transported to the hospital. That is the key, is rapid assessment and rapid transport is going to save lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Pena. And of course, I'm standing here with Councilmember Edward Pollard, so thank you for being here. This is the first day of June, which is also the first day of hurricane season, and there is a system brewing somewhere out there, and hopefully it will will not come in our direction. But Chief Bunick, you want to speak to it?
Yeah, Mayor, thank you for your leadership during this COVID crisis, and for also still sending the message to have people mask up to prevent, because the city's made some real good progress on what we're doing. The Office of Emergency Management talked about last month about the hurricane preparation tips. We had Hurricane Preparation Week, May 3rd through the 9th. And, some of the major tips we're talking about: make a plan, build a kit, stay informed, know your neighbors. I also mentioned at one of the earlier news conferences about purchasing flood insurance if you don't already have it, strengthening your house, and then also developing an evacuation plan in the event that the storm's coming our way and that you need to get out. I'd also mentioned about the Hurricane Preparation Guide, and that's available at HoustonOEM.org. It's in 6 different languages. Has all the information that you need. It has checklists, provides you some detailed guidance on what to do with hurricanes. Then in the middle, it actually has the evacuation plan by zip codes, very valuable document. But this week we've been tracking Tropical Depression Amanda, and this is produced by the National Weather Service. They've provided us some graphics, and at least 5 of the models show it that it will possibly come into the Gulf. So we're looking at, maybe Friday, Saturday. We're going to be tracking it each and every day. As we get closer to the weekend, we'll have a better idea of where the storm's going to go. There's a dozen different models out there, and a little less than half of them show it going into the Gulf. Other ones do not show it. But Office of Emergency Management has been working real closely with our partners, the police, fire, public works, and the rest of the city departments, as we always do, to come up with the plan. So I'm here to say that the city's well prepared to deal with this, along with all the other issues that are going on in town. Thank you.
Thank you. So please be weather aware, weather alert, and hopefully it will not come in our direction, but please be weather aware. And then let me just say that June 5th, Friday, this coming Friday, is the City of Houston salute to our high school seniors throughout the city of Houston. This is like their week. Friday night, 6:30. The City of Houston salute to our high school graduates. So students from Houston Independent School District, Spring Branch, Aldine, Spring, A-Leaf. We are saluting all of those seniors as well as others. But I specifically want to acknowledge and thank the superintendents from Aldine, HISD, Spring Branch, Spring, and A-Leaf. And that's this coming Friday at 6:30. So please tune in. The high school graduates themselves will be going to their respective campuses or a designated place of the school districts. They'll be in their cap and gown with their masks on, engaged in social distancing. And their parents, relatives, and others will be watching virtually. But the graduates will be returning in many cases to their schools or their school district, where they will get a chance to say hello and meet their principals and teachers and fellow classmates. So that is this coming Friday at 6:30. Let me just say, with respect to this weekend's events and hashtag George Floyd and Justice for George Floyd, we want to continue to lift up his family and many close friends. Want to continue to lift them up. I want to thank the people in the city of Houston. Want to thank the people in the city of Houston, our marchers, demonstrators, protesters, for behaving responsibly and peacefully, especially on a Saturday evening, Saturday evening. About 98% of the people participating in whatever events that were taking place peacefully. So I want to thank you for that. I want to thank people on yesterday and last night in the city of Houston. Quite frankly, about 100% participation. Very few exceptions. There may have been a couple of arrests, and not in the downtown area, but in the city, that may have been connected to some sort how can I put it, a protest of some kind, but only a couple in the city of Houston. So yesterday, last night, about 100% participation, and people were very peaceful, very responsible, and so I want to thank you. To our police officers, I want to thank them for exercising a great deal of restraint over the last several days, and for their high degree of professionalism. I want to thank them. I want to thank our firefighters, Chief Pena, for the support that they have given, for being out there as well on the front line, and how they have handled things. All of our municipal workers, I want to thank them. But I want to thank the people in the city of Houston, our community leaders, community activists, faith-based leaders, and then just the marchers, the demonstrators, the protesters. Let me thank you for not working to destroy or deface our city. Other than Friday evening, things have been quite peaceful. Tomorrow, I want to give a lot of credit to and acknowledge Trey the Truth and Bumby. Those two are the principal organizers of the event that will be taking place on tomorrow. Don't want to take anything away from them. Trey the Truth, Bumby. These are two individuals from this city who have helped the city out in many, many ways. They are the principal organizers for the event tomorrow. The city of Houston certainly will support the efforts to make sure that things are done in a very peaceful and orderly fashion. And so, myself and I'm sure other elected officials will be participating in the march from Discovery Green to City Hall in unity with members of the George Floyd family. There are some members that are already in Minneapolis. There are many others who are still here in Houston, and I've had an opportunity to talk with the family members almost every day. I talked with a number of them last night. They were all together on last night. Very uplifting conversation, and wanted to offer the support of the city to let them know that we are continuing to pray for them, and talk with them again today. And so we're going to continue to lift up this family. The march is not a City of Houston event, but it is being organized by our local community activists, like I said, Trey the Truth and Bumby and others, and the city will be supportive of this event. I expect the march to be peaceful and respectful, with a focus on George Floyd and his family. George Floyd, but they do want these protests to be very peaceful, and I want to echo that as well. People have the right to, but in Houston, and quite frankly all over, we do want them and ask you to be very responsible and to do it in a very peaceful fashion. Houston has helped to set an example for protests taking place across the nation. I want to thank the city of Houston in its entirety for that. Police have made some arrests, and there have been some incidents in our city, but things have not gotten out of hand, and participants have remained peaceful for the most part. So again, thank you. Thank the city so very, very much for what you have done, and for what I know you will continue to do in the city that we all deeply love. But we want to keep the focus on George Floyd and hashtag justice for George Floyd. That's where the focus needs to be, and that's where we need to keep the focus and not do anything that's going to take away from that particular focus. And then we want to honor the family's request, and that is we make meaningful and impactful change and engage in meaningful and impactful reforms, and to improve it, our system, the way we operate, but not do anything that would take away from his memory. Having said that, let me pause and take whatever questions you may have.
Thank you. Mayor, over the weekend,
Surely.
Chief Acevedo said of the 400-plus arrests over the weekend, some of those people were anarchists, provocateurs who had come here to engage in violence. But we don't have much of a breakdown or much more information about that. Now, he did say that 20 people arrested on Friday night were people from out of town. What about Saturday night? And how many people have been arrested, to your knowledge, that came from somewhere else and may be affiliated with some of the groups that we've heard about that are trying to foment unrest?
I think the majority of people that have been arrested were locals from the Houston area. There were some that came from out of town, but the greatest percentage came from Houston. And what we have said and what I have said, whether you come from out of town or whether you are whether you are local, engaging in any sort of activity to deface, to loot, and destructive activity is not positive, and that is something that we strongly, strongly discourage. So I have no problems with people protesting, just ask that people do it peacefully.
Well, do you know if they've been able, or if the police or police intelligence has been able to connect any groups like Antifa or any of the white supremacy groups that we've seen pop up in other cities at any of our protests?
I know Chief Acevedo has indicated to me that there has been some intelligence on that, but quite frankly, that was leading up and even during, but I'll have to defer to him on that. I don't have any specifics that I can point to at this time.
In coming days, tomorrow, for instance, what's your anticipation of the size of the crowd, and what security measures are being put into place to make sure it's safe?
Well, as you can see, since Friday, we have really increased the number of resources that we have in the city of Houston substantially and quite a bit. And so there are a number of police officers and other law enforcement that you can readily see in uniform, and then there are a number of others that you don't see. We are partnering with organizations, law enforcement organizations at all levels. You know, DPS, for example, have a number of DPS officers who are here in the city that are joining with the Houston Police Department. We've coordinated our activities with the Sheriff Department. Federal agents have also assisted. So there are a number of assets that we have in the city of Houston. The good news is, other than what occurred on Friday evening, the people in the city of Houston and people who have engaged in these protests have done so peacefully. And that's why, as of today, you don't see Houston in the national conversation in terms of a lot of looting and burning and things of that nature that have taken place on Saturday and Sunday. We are not under a curfew. There was no need to do it on Saturday. There was no need to do it last night. And I'm hoping there will not be a need to do it tonight or in the days to come. So I think we fully recognize there's a lot of pain. Emotions are running high. And people want to make sure that there's justice done. So we understand that and we appreciate that. But I am very thankful again to the people in the city of Houston who have expressed their sentiments, but have done it in a very peaceful fashion. I hope it will continue.
Is the city planning for up to 15,000 people to participate in the March Tuesday?
You know, I don't want to put a number on, Phil, because I literally don't know. What I would tell you is that we are ramping up for a large crowd tomorrow. I've talked to Bumby, for example, and Bumby is encouraging, and Trader Truth are encouraging people to be very peaceful. This is intended to be a very respectful rally, because some of the family members will be participating in it, and some of the family members will be here at City Hall. So this is in honor and in tribute to someone who grew up in Houston in 3rd Ward, graduated from Jack Yates, and so this is a salute to George and an acknowledgement that he should not have died the way he did. And we want to honor George. This is his home, okay? And so we want, this is our city, this is our house, this is our home, this is George's home. So we want to honor him. But the organizers believe that it will be very peaceful, and we are encouraging people to do just that.
And one last question, and I
Sure.
promise I'll sit down.
That's okay.
Is it possible for us to get a breakdown in the arrest numbers over the weekend? That is, who did the police identify as having come from out of the region, and who did they identify as having any connections to any of these groups that seem to be intent on causing strife?
And certainly, I think we get the addresses on almost everybody who comes into our system, and so that information we'll make that available to you. What I will say is that regardless of where you come from, there were some people whose agenda was not that of lifting up the name of George Floyd and honoring his memory. And that works against the wishes of the family and what others are wanting to see happen. They want the system to be more responsive and want us to do better, but they are not interested, as his brother said, they are not interested in things, actions that's going to tear down the city and make things worse for the people that they are standing up for now in the memory of their own family member. And so it is not their desire that we tear down our cities, that we make it more difficult for people to live in their city, in their communities, in their neighborhoods. And I am hoping that as people lift up the name of George Floyd, that they will stand up, march, walk, protest, but do it in such a way that will not deface his name or his memory, and will not work against the cause for which so many people out there are fighting for. That's my hope.
Mayor, why do you think protests in Houston are generally more peaceful than other cities?
Well, let me just say that we work very hard every day to work with one another. This is the most diverse city in the United States of America. And it's one thing to be diverse. You can be diverse, separate, segregated, and apart. We work every day to be diverse and to be very inclusive. And that's demonstrated when you look at the face of City Hall and city governance. You know, when you look at the police chief, for example, Hispanic. Chief Pena, Hispanic. The mayor of this city, African American. Standing next to an African American city council person. The finance director is Asian. The head of public works, first female in the history of this city. There is a great deal of diversity as it relates to ethnicity, language, sexual orientation. We recognize that we are stronger when we work together. We have gone through the Tax Day flood, Harvey, Tropical Storm Imelda, going through the coronavirus, and we've been doing these things together. I think that's what people in this city recognize, that we can, it doesn't serve anyone's purpose to tear down or to work or to engage in divisive behavior. That doesn't benefit you, neither does it benefit me or anyone else. One of the reasons why our numbers on coronavirus are, relatively speaking, so much lower, 5,000 people have died from the coronavirus. In the city of Houston, as of today, 131. And that's because we've worked together to keep those numbers low. That's the reason.
What's your message to those in the community feeling frustrated and confused right now by the events that have happened?
Look, I've been frustrated by a number of things that have happened. I've come through a period of time when people older than me have said to me, Sylvester, life is not fair, but you have to learn how to navigate through it, okay? In school, you learn 2 + 2 = 4. In the real world, 2 + 2 doesn't necessarily equal 4. Life is not fair, okay? And there are people who have been living in communities and neighborhoods, just like the one in which George Floyd was reared in, 3rd Ward, the Trade, or 5th Ward, the Nickel, or Acres Home, the Fofo, or Denver Harbor, or the East End. And those communities have looked and remained the same for decades. And they are saying, I am no less than anybody else. So they're frustrated, angry, they get emotional, they recognize that there are inequities, and essentially what they are saying to the world even now, if you do not respond to me, then I will do everything I can to make you see me, because you will see me. But what you will no longer do, you will not ignore me. I got that. I got that. And so it's important for us together to respond. Black, white, brown, rich, poor, those in between, Muslim, Jews, Baptists. It's important for us to respond together.
Can you confirm that the funeral of George Floyd will take place in Houston a week from tomorrow?
I can't say to you exactly that it's going to take place a week from tomorrow. In talking to the family as of last night, the final details haven't yet been worked out. But I do know that before the body comes to the city of Houston, they will go, I want to say, to North Carolina and then come this way. So could be Monday, Tuesday, somewhere up in that. But those details have not been finalized, and the family will let us know.
I have two more questions involving COVID-19. When it comes to COVID-19 cases, why are there so many unknown races, ethnicities on the Houston-Harris County COVID dashboard?
Now you got me on that one. Let me yield.
I can answer that one. All right, so that's a great question. I'm saddened that you have the ability to ask it, but the reason is that before COVID, when a test was done for a communicable illness, like meningitis, tuberculosis, HIV, whatever the illness was, there were two sources of information that the health department would get. There would be from the physician that ordered the record, or the test rather, and then from the lab, the test result. Well, with COVID, you notice we have a lot of these testing centers that are popping up, and they spool up very, very quickly. And so the labs are used to reporting to us a name and a phone number, and no other information, because we used to get that from the doctor's office that ordered it. And so that's the reason, because the labs continue to be reporting us their information the way they used to, which is very often, and it varies from one lab to the next, but very often it's the patient's name and a contact phone number, and that's it. And there's no gender, there's no race, there's no other information.
My question to Mayor Turner.
You need to know my race.
South Africa, London, the world has had and protested alongside Americans, and we want to thank them for that. And mayors around America have condemned Minneapolis and the police department over there. We thank them for that. If this is not a national issue, what is it? And if it is, over the last couple of months, what has happened in your constituency and in Houston, which is similar to this? How have you addressed it? Thank you.
Well, it's a national issue, it's a global issue, it's a human issue. And we're talking about the rights of humanity. So it's all of that. Let me take this opportunity and let me just say, last night I just saw and heard a very powerful moment with the police chief of Minneapolis, in which he spoke specifically about his police officer that placed his knee on the neck of George Floyd, and acknowledged right then it was wrong, ended up firing him. And then he was asked about those officers who didn't intervene and what he thought about that, and he said their silence was complicit. He was very direct and forthright. That was a powerful moment. I discussed that interview with George Floyd family members last night. It was very important for them to hear it. And like I said to them, it was very important for the country to hear it. And so it's not just it's not just in Minneapolis, it's not just globally, but human rights all over the globe. And we stand in solidarity. Now, I'm not even standing before you to say that the way we operate and here in the city is perfect, because it's not. So we always have to look for ways to improve, to make sure we engage in best practices, to review our own internal procedures, our actions, to enhance our training, to make sure that we're doing everything we can to earn the support of the public and to maintain their support. It is an ongoing effort, but we have to speak to it and act on it each and every day. Yes, sir.
What is the city doing to identify city zip codes with the highest COVID rates and to get help to those communities?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So we work with the results when we get all the information, and we know where people who have been tested, we know where they live, and we rate it by zip code. And we also look at those communities that we know have got higher medical risk factors for complications of COVID. And so we combined those. And Stephen Williams stood up here the other day and gave it, we are using that information to target the zip codes where we need to put our mobile testing centers in. And so we've got, he could tell you the exact number, but somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 testing sites on any given day, and they're mobile. And so we move them into those neighborhoods where looking at zip codes for low density of tests, and also those people who have highest risk for problems. And so we're moving them into those exact neighborhoods. Thank you.
Just in the last hour or so, they announced the funeral plans for George Floyd that Monday would be his viewing here in Houston and Tuesday
Okay.
would be the funeral. What can we expect from the city as far as the funeral?
Well, what I've said to the family, we're going to do everything that we can to assist, to make it as easy for them and to ease the load that's on them. I know we will provide some security for them and some security in making sure that their brother, their family member is respectfully and carefully brought, for example, from the airport to the funeral home and then to the funeral itself and to the resting place. So we'll provide that sort of security. It's important for everything that's done, that is done tastefully and respectfully, and that we're very sensitive to that. So our job is not to add pressure to this family, like you wouldn't want to do it to any family that's going through this type of grief and experiencing this type of pain, but to be supportive. He is returning home, okay? And quite frankly, in view of everything that has taken place, it is important that the city of Houston do it in such a way that will speak, that would be of emotional and spiritual support for the family, but for the city too. And quite frankly, in view of what's happening in the country, we want to do it respectfully for those who will be watching. So we'll provide security, and then we'll assist in whatever ways that they think is most appropriate.
Is there concern that people who have caused problems in other cities will come here to Houston for the funeral and cause problems here?
Well, I hope not. The reality is that if you are standing for George Floyd, why would you want to create problems for his family? And if you are true to the cause, why would you want to do anything to take away from this special emotional moment for his family and for his friends? And so if you want to do the right thing, and if you're standing up and protesting for the right reasons, and when the family is saying publicly that violence and looting are not consistent to what George would have wanted, this is Big George, Gentle George, as they have referred to him, why would anyone, whether you come from outside of the city or in the city, why would you want to do anything that would take away this moment and the justice for George? If that's your intent, then you're going totally contrary to trying to right a wrong by committing a wrong yourself. And in this city, we're not going to tolerate it. Sure.
I suppose that you are expecting a lot of people tomorrow during the march. So what about the COVID-19 prevention measure during the
In
march?
fact,
How can people be safe?
that's how I was going to end this press conference, by saying for everyone that's going to be engaged in large crowds or mass, please put on your mask or your face coverings, please. That's important. And so if people are going to be marching, demonstrating, protesting, or just in a mass gathering of any kind, please put on your mask, put on your face coverings, as best as possible. Engage in social distancing, but make sure you have the sanitizers or your gloves, making sure as proper hygiene as quickly as you can. But the face coverings are, you just need to mask up, okay? And be respectful of not just yourself, but be respectful of others. The masks are intended to protect you from somebody else and to protect them from you. So please, remember, this virus does not take a weekend break, and this virus does not take a break because you're protesting or marching. It is still very much here, and if you drop your guard 2 to 3 weeks from now, it'll remind you.
Pretty quick, may I ask to Chief Peña talk us in Spanish about the EMS operation drop?
Right, I was just about to do that, but if you want to hear Chief Peña do it in Spanish, I'm going to yield. Chief, you can do it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. Sí, mire, lo que le quisiera decir es a las personas que van a atender esta función mañana, que es importante tener el higiene apropiado, es importante usar las máscaras, sí, porque va a haber bastantes personas y todavía estamos considerando que el virus está aquí presente en esta comunidad. En preparación para estas demostraciones mañana y en lo que va de la semana, el Departamento de Bomberos va a estar preparado con adicionales ambulancias y unidades para prestar atención médica si se necesita. Esperamos que las personas que acudan a estos protestas, que lo hagan responsablemente, ¿sí? No hay razón de causar daños y materiales o personales a las personas. Estamos aquí para ayudarlos. El alcalde Turner va a prestar todos los recursos que se necesitan para que esté un ambiente seguro, a respeto de policías, bomberos y recursos de la ciudad. Pero lo que pedimos a la comunidad es que lo hagan responsablemente, que tengan cuidado en cómo se comportan, porque queremos que esta comunidad dé una atención apropiada a la causa que están protestando. Y no queremos que causen daños o que haya personas heridas. Así es que nosotros estamos preparados para prestar el servicio. Lo que pedimos a la comunidad es que lo hagan responsablemente y estamos aquí para ayudarlos a ellos.
Sí, muy rápido, sobre las personas que no quieren ir a los hospitales y llamar al 911.
Seguro. Lo que hemos visto de lo que va del año, cuando empezó esto con el coronavirus, es que el número de transportes al hospital a causa de casos cardíacos que ha bajado. Hemos tenido muy bajos transportes al hospital. Lo que estamos diciendo a la comunidad es que si necesitan el 911, el 911 por causas del corazón, o sea, cardíacas, que llamen al 911. Es muy importante. Nosotros vamos a tener la protección adecuada para los bomberos y para los pacientes para asegurar su seguridad. Y lo que queremos decir es que los hospitales están seguros. No existe el coronavirus en los hospitales en un nivel que tengan que tener precaución o miedo en acudir esa asistencia. Es lo que estamos pidiendo, es que llamen al 911 si necesitan ayuda de la emergencia, y nosotros acudimos y nosotros nos aseguramos que tengamos los seguros adecuados para proteger a los bomberos y a nuestros pacientes. Sí, gracias.
Quieren saber cómo ellos se van a poder proteger para esta temporada de huracanes que viene.
refugios
Ujú.
y si hay evacuaciones.
Sí, mire, si hay refugios o evacuaciones, lo que estamos pidiendo a la comunidad es que se hagan las preparaciones adecuadas para una causa de que tenemos que evacuar o de un huracán. Tenemos albergues que sí, estamos viendo otros lugares donde podamos tener la distancia física para las personas, pero si es una emergencia, la primera prioridad es la seguridad de las personas, ¿sí? La distancia física va a ser segundo. Y lo que nosotros necesitamos de la comunidad es que ellos pongan de su parte, que hagan las preparaciones adecuadas para si tengan que evacuar de su casa. Tengan máscaras disponibles para usar. Aunque nosotros podamos tener unas máscaras para proveerles a las personas, es mejor que las personas y las familias se preparen adecuadamente para si hay caso de evacuar. ¿Sí? Gracias.